The other thing that I use is this GaiaGPS. That is my primary application when it comes to off-roading in the Jeep. And I actually have a little bit of a setup in the Jeep where I have my iPad mini and I have a like a cup holder for the iPad mini, and it sits in the middle between the front seats, and I will have that up and running. So this is the mode where it just shows you elevation, okay, topographic maps, and then you do have the option of recording tracks as you go. So if I just hit this, so it's going to take me back home now, but there we go. Now with this green thing at the top, that is basically, so if I were to move it, you can see it will move with me, and I can tell it to record up at the record button up there. And when it records, it will actually record the track for you. So you can then just drive the off-road track that you want to take, and if you have to backtrack or if you want to save it for others so that they can follow you, you basically record it, it saves it locally, and then once it gets cell service, you can upload it to the cloud. You see here there's saved ones. Molus Camp is a waypoint, and then I have different maps. Again, you can download your maps, and not only can you download the topographic maps, but it also uses the layers that you define. So Gaia Topo, that is the base map. That's basically the map that comes with Gaia GPS. And then I have as my maps, I have USFS or US Forest Service, the MVUM, which is the Motor Vehicle Use Map. So those are all the roads that the US Forest Service manages that show you whether or not you can drive on those with your Jeep or ATV or whatever. And then the topmost layer with the lowest opacity, that's this here, and it gives you the opacity. With the lowest opacity here, that is showing me public lands. Now, here in Iowa, there are no, let me go back out of here. So here in Iowa, there are no public lands really. You have the state forests, and then you have obviously the state parks and so on. But if we go over here into Colorado, here you see all the green and everything. So if I see on the green here, that's a national forest. And then it shows you which administration, what region, etc. And then it also has this this reddish, that is just regular. There we go. This orange here, that's regular public land. So if you were driving around without having a set spot where you want to camp, as long as you find something like here, okay, that is like this, red, or because I have the opacity down, it really looks pink. That means it's public land, and because it's public land, you can actually camp there if you want to, or overnight there. Now, if you find something like here where it's white, well, you can't just pull off the road and like overnight or camp here, unfortunately. But all the red things, all the green, which is Forest Service, all the brown, that's all public land that you can actually use. You can just pull off the road and you can camp. So this is usually on my iPad mini in the middle, and I have this zoomed in far enough so that as I'm driving on the trail, I see what's coming up. I see the terrain. I see if it's getting steep or if it's, uphill, downhill. I see all that because I have the topographic maps, and they're very detailed. And I know public land. I know whether or not I'm on a Forest Service road. So all that information is really important to have when you're off-road. And because you download these maps, again, here, for example, right, around Sioux City, that is just very important that you have all those maps. And then because you have those maps, like here is the one again for Western Colorado, and you can see I pretty much took a big chunk of this. There we go. All this Uncompahgre National Forest, and you see that there's a big area here. And so if I go off-roading anywhere in this area, again, without cell service, I will still have my topographic maps. So that's why this is so important to have. So for now, I'm still going to use Apple Maps when I go from here to Moeller Park, because most of that is going to be on highways, so there should be enough cell coverage to not lose it. And I set the route before I leave, so it's going to be cached, so I shouldn't have a problem with the map disappearing on me. Once I get to Moeller's campground, I'm not going to use Apple Maps anymore. I'm going to use, and hopefully by then it will be, the iOS 12 will have been released out of beta, and Google will have updated its map apps to work with CarPlay, because then I'm going to use Google Maps on CarPlay in overview mode, so on terrain mode, and then overview, so that I can actually have the big picture where I'm at and in relation to the other things that are around there. And then my Gaia GPS on the iPad will stay on just the trail, so zoomed in pretty good to where I can see what is coming up on the trail itself. Maybe Gaia is going to create a version that works on CarPlay, and then I will have to rethink my options, because then maybe I'll use the terrain map on the from Google Maps on the iPad, and I use the CarPlay display as my Gaia GPS display for the immediate trail that I'm on. So for now, my options are still limited because I just can't use Google Maps, unfortunately. But again, by the time I leave for Western Colorado in September, I'm hoping that that will be fixed. So hope this is helpful. And if you don't have CarPlay, it's really no big deal, because I would suggest, without CarPlay, I would suggest you just use Google Maps, because of the fact that you can download the maps. So you know which area you're going to visit. So download the maps, and cell service is irrelevant. If you're off-roading, definitely take a look at GaiaGPS. It is absolutely worth spending for the Pro subscription, because it gives you so much information, and when you're going off-roading, it is very important that you know where you are and what's coming up. So that's why I really, really recommend GaiaGPS. And then for everything else, if you like Apple, and if you like the integration with the watch tapping you when you need to turn and so on, that's great, as long as you have the luxury of cell service. So I would say with cell service, no problem. Without cell service, you really need to rethink your options. Stay safe.